The MVP race has started to heat up, and though injuries have possibly taken a few contenders out of the race, the drumbeat for guys like Nikola Jokic, James Harden, and Giannis Antetokounmpo have remained quite loud. But there is another guy out there putting together another monster year, leading his team to the top tier in the West, shooting the lights out, and shutting down the opponent's best player while being so quiet, we've all forgotten the name Kawhi Leonard. Friend of the breakdown Shane Young tweeted out some stats the other day on Kawhi's dominant shooting splits, and it encouraged me to take a deep dive into how he's generating such impressive numbers. Without a true point guard, the Clippers have leaned heavily on Kawhi to generate their offense. The high pick and roll is his most common action, and it leads to the lost art of the mid-range jumper, something he's so good at that even in the modern analytics age, it shouldn't be discouraged. They'll screen with guards or big men, and it won't matter who ends up guarding him, as he can elevate and fade for plenty of space to get these shots off. Ty Lue likes to go to a double ball screen across the top for Kawhi as well, which typically gets him into the lane for shots at the rim, since it pulls 6 players out on the perimeter with shooters in the corner. Plenty of space for Kawhi to patiently slice up the defense. Kawhi is averaging 1.2 dunks per game, and many of them are off of the pick and roll, where he forces a switch and gets right to the rim to elevate and hold that ball up high with his supremely large hands. Check the pistol action, where he gets a handoff into ball screen to the right. Poor Jakob Poeltl has to deal with both the Zubats rolling and Kawhi driving, and I hope he smiled for this poster. Another effective way they can get him a ball screen is out of horns. Watch how Reggie Jackson sets the rub screen first, and then Batum gets in the way of Bledsoe, who had switched on to Kawhi. Zion is worried about the shooter popping out. Bledsoe can't get in front, and it leads right to the rim for another layup. Despite also having Paul George on the team, it's clear that the isolation attack is reserved primarily for Kawhi Leonard, especially during end-of-quarter or shot clock situations where the team always defaults to getting him the ball to generate some sort of shot in the face of good defensive pressure. They also find him on the elbow a la Kobe Bryant, where he creates the kind of tough mid-range shots that the Black Mamba was so famous for. We all know that Kawhi patterned his game a lot off of Kobe, and even worked with him on the court. The key to both of these players' excellence was their dedication to being the smartest player on the floor. If you know someone who isn't 6'7" and blessed with supreme athletic ability but wants to play college basketball, there is no better place to send them to than Point Guard College. Thousands of coaches, including top NBA and NCAA coaches, send their own kids to a 5-day, 4-night Point Guard College camp each year to discover how to think the game, lead their team, and run the show. In addition to the 10,000 players from 7th to 12th grade in college who attend one of PGC's 120 camps nationwide, over 1,500 coaches attend PGC each summer too to develop their basketball IQ. Whether you're a player or a coach, just go to pgcbasketball.com or click on the link in the description below to find a camp near you and use discount code BBALL to save $100 off the camp fee. That's pgcbasketball.com. Forcing switches and mismatches isn't necessarily a staple of the Clippers' offense, but watch out when they do get these advantages. Because of Kawhi's size and length, there are very few bigs that can avoid getting embarrassed by an ISO from the perimeter, no matter how tall they might be. While people keep saying the post-up is dead, all we see are the best players in the league continue to use it as a legitimate weapon, often enough to debunk this myth, and Kawhi is no exception. The first thing I love about his postgame is how he attacks on the catch before the defense is prepared, and you can see what kind of shots these yield. The Clippers rely on a play that dates back to the 60s, a UCLA cut to the low post feed. They cut through to give him space, and it's hard to defend Leonard because he's so good at turning over both shoulders. The turnaround over the right shoulder is particularly lethal. And despite the double team coming, it's the kind of shot he knows he can get off at any time and hit with a lot of accuracy with his high release and limitation of any extra motion. While he does provide us with a terrific display of footwork and skill on post-ups like these, with a little dream shake to the baseline before rising up to shoot this fadeaway over the help defender, he is also prone to just bulldozing guys out of his way with his shoulder, a battering ram to knock them back as a throwback to an earlier era of 7-footers that used to do this, and as long as it's subtle enough for the refs to avoid blowing their whistles, Kawhi should continue to utilize this for post-up buckets. Oh, and if you dare try to reach in and steal his dribble, let's just say, with his hands and ball handling, you're going to find yourself on the wrong end of these possessions almost every time. So don't reach, try to contest, and pray he misses. To round out his offensive game, Kawhi does allow the offense and his teammates to create shots for him. Most of the assists his teammates get from Kawhi are off of spot-up three-point shots. So let's examine how Paul George is able to find areas to set up Leonard for good looks. The wing pick and roll for George with Kawhi on the weak side is a great way to stretch the defense. If you want to help off of the wing here on the roll man, George is going to make this pass and Kawhi is going to shoot this shot. On this possession, Kawhi is in the corner when the ball screen is set, which is a traditional rotation for his man to rotate over. However, there was no need as Wendell Carter Jr. was in good position and didn't need help, and it's an easy pass, easy shot. They can also put Kawhi on the same side of the pick and roll and try to lure his man to bump down to help. This is not the way to rotate, it should be Terrence Ross, and as a result, Kawhi can generate an open corner three after the shot fake. Paul George also commands his own gravity, like out of this weave action across the top. And while it's crazy to think Kawhi's man Bradley Beal would stray off him this far, Kawhi isn't going to complain with the open catch and shoot. Because the Clippers don't have a traditional point guard, Kawhi has to be more of a playmaker than ever before, as he's averaging the second highest assists per 36 minutes of his career. He's setting up teammates mostly via kickouts from the post for great looks from three-point range. As we described earlier, his post game is devastating and tends to suck multiple defenders down into the paint. Nikola Batum is his favorite target for this action, and it's a key component to Batum's revitalization in LA. However, I am a little worried at how much they're going to need to rely on Batum as they get deeper in the playoffs, so make a mental note of this when the playoffs start. Paul George is shooting a career high from three, and part of it is playing off of these post-ups from Kawhi. It's mind-boggling the defense would help with his man in these situations, but that's a testament to how good Kawhi is down low, and as a result, Leonard has been able to hit PG with passes for open jumpers consistently. Kawhi is playing 2 more minutes per game this season compared to last. And while he might pick and choose his spots to turn it up on defense, he's still something to be feared, averaging almost 2 steals a game with his long arms, huge hands, and ability to just snatch errant passes out of the air if you're not careful. Passers still have to be aware of where he is when deciding whether or not to release the ball, and there is no question this will be a point of emphasis in scouting reports for their playoff opponents. He also will guard the other team's best perimeter scorer often, and you can see during the regular season how just his presence can dissuade guys like Luka and Harden from even taking a shot. And even when they try to screen him off, he can still disrupt the entire offense just by his knack for being in the precise right spot at the right time. So, while we celebrate the Jokic's and Hardens for their scintillating play, let's not forget the standard of excellence that is being set on a nightly basis by Kawhi Leonard, a guy who doesn't attract the limelight with a ton of flashy plays, but simply gets the job done, and is doing so at crazy high efficiencies. If he continues to keep his team at the top of the West like this, then he'd better be among the top vote getters for NBA MVP. As we get towards the end of the season and the playoffs, make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications to get the latest breakdowns on the NBA. Plus, I've got a YouTube membership with tons of extra content you won't want to miss. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and throw a comment down below. Plus, don't forget about your Manscaped discount. After all, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?